Over the next few weeks, about 8 million kids across the country will dig their shin guards out of the garage, lace up, and hit the soccer field. And as any parent knows, bumps and bruises aren't far behind.
Sports are sports and kids get injured. And usually it's not serious, but kids get injured.
Dr. Peter Sturm is Chief of Orthopedics at Shriners Children's Hospital in Oak Park. Along with doctors nationwide, including those that head up the country's leading group of pediatricians, Sturm is keeping a close eye on reports that suggest injury rates for soccer are rising.
Overuse injuries we see with kids, I think, especially with the much younger kids.
A report from the American Academy of Pediatrics in February found knee injuries were continuing to rise in girls, while boys tend to suffer more ankle injuries. Most of injury prevention is common sense. Rest, ice and elevate the limb. If it hurts longer than a week or two, Sturm says go see a doctor, and don't let your kid back in the field too soon. But best of all is keeping them from getting hurt in the first place, and that's all about training.
Being in shape is a good way to prevent injuries. There's no question about that. So kids who kind of sit around on the couch all winter and then go out and haven't exercised for months, I think they're more prone to injuries.
Chris Karabatsis is the head coach of the Darien Dynamos, a soccer club in the western suburbs.
Hey, Tony, you gotta move again, buddy. Don't stay in the same spot.
All the Dynamo teams do at least 20 minutes of agility and strength training every practice, in addition to stretching and warming up.
And we concentrate a lot, especially on injury prevention. Even at the younger levels, there's specific things that you can do to be able to develop the joints, to have great balance, and to be flexible. And if you're flexible and you have great balance, the chance of getting injured is very, very limited.
Here, nice, and back.
So Dynamo players do lunges to strengthen the knee muscles, ladder drills to work on agility and balance, and cone drills for footwork. And if a player does get injured,
they get an ankle sprain, they think they can play, well, we stop them, we send them to the right people.
And so remember, when your kids hit the field this spring, common sense and preparation go a long way to keeping them there. For Chicago Parent, I'm Liz Hoffman.